You give us a roll call, Mary, please.
Yes. Chair David Downs,
Here.
Vice Chair Jason Branch,
Here.
Elizabeth Wyving. Here. Georgianne Keyport. Here. Zach Ressig.
Here.
Danielle Hai. Here. Carly Whitner. Here. Michael Hauer. Terry Schwerm.
Here.
Samson Hassan. Here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Is there any comments or changes that anyone would like to see to the agenda? Hearing none, could we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I motion to adopt the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. Next item is visitors presentation. Seeing none, we will close that item on the agenda. Item 5 is approve previous meeting minutes. The first one is our meeting of June 13th. Any comments, changes, discussion on those? I thought they were really complete and well-written. Are you doing them again, Mary, or is it the crew that they tried to hire?
Both.
Both? Nice job, though. I thought they were great. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes, Park Commission minutes of June 13th?
I move that we adopt.
Georgianne,
I second.
Danielle, seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. The next minutes to be received are the city council minutes of June 5th, June 26th, and July 17th, as well as the planning commission meeting of May 10th and June 14th. Are there any comments or discussions on any of the points on those meeting minutes? We don't need a motion to receive those. We'll therefore receive the minutes of those meetings. On to the discussion items. Community Center Master Plan Update.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. It's hard to believe it's already August.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, as you see on our agenda, we got some updates to share. And so I'm just gonna switch out my screen here. I've got just a little bit of graphics to go with my updates. There we go. Good. So yes, the first update, we've got the community center master plan update. And the exciting thing there is the planned open house event we have occurring tomorrow. And so we have two options for the community to attend that. We've got one from 11 to 1, and then a second option from 5 to 8 in the evening. And then for those that aren't available to attend in person, we are preparing to put things on the project website, and we'll message that out to the community where there'll be information for people to view the things that'll be at the open house online, with the ability to also take an online survey. So we'll gather additional feedback outside of just this in-person event. So the plan is we will have display boards set up within the banquet room, where there'll be a variety of displays and details, an opportunity for people to just walk through, ask questions and provide feedback. And so we'll have members of our citizen task force present, staff will be present along with our consultants as well. And then during each of those sessions, we'll have a presentation that'll occur inside the theater. One will be at 11:30 and then the other one will be at 6 o'clock at night. And that'll just be an opportunity to give a high level overview of the plan and a little bit of the why we did the plan, the process and how we went about it, that sort of led us to what's being shown. And then we'll finish up with what's being recommended and the cost associated with it, along with what will be the next steps going forward. And so really the goal here is to kind of loop back with the community, because as you recall, we did quite a bit of community engagement when we started out with this project. And so now it's coming back and showcasing what we've come up with. And ideally, we've accounted for the large themes that came out of that community feedback, and to see whether or not we hit the mark. So this is an opportunity for people to give their input on that. You know, and I think for us to still be open, did we miss anything? If so, we would then discuss that with the task force and account for it. But ideally, we did a good job. I'm pretty happy with what the plan looks like. I think it's been a journey. It's a big puzzle in the beginning. It's a very complex building, and just the nature of working within an existing building can be challenging to make things flow. But I really like the way this is turning out, and I'm excited to bring it forward to the community tomorrow, and would welcome and encourage all of you to attend that event as well and go through it. I don't know if Danelle or Zach have anything else you want to share, just as being members of the task force.
Last meeting, unfortunately, so I have no updates since the last meeting that we all had.
I think that this is going to be a great event tomorrow for public engagement, and it's been a really fun and interesting and informative process. And I think that the community is going to see that it's been pretty well served by all the parties involved that are putting this plan together. It's just my perspective as a community member and a task force member.
Any other comments on the community center master plan? Moving on then to item 7B, facility naming rights update.
All right. So wanted to bring forward an update on this project. As you recall, we're working with consulting group, the Superlative Group, to focus in on the potential for naming rights as it relates to our curling and event center. Last time we met, I had shared with you that we had gone through a pretty lengthy process to vet businesses that the Parks and Rec Commission, along with City Council, were comfortable to further conversations with. And so we worked with Superlative Group to craft a letter that went out to those businesses to introduce the opportunity. That letter went out, I believe, on July 6th, and just recently had a meeting with the staff at the Superlative Group, and from the mailing, they've received about 10 to 12 responses back from businesses expressing interest in wanting to learn more. So I think that was exciting to hear. And so they're essentially following up with those particular businesses and conducting more meetings to talk about that opportunity more. There were a handful that came right out and expressed that they were not interested in the opportunity. However, in talking with Superlative Group, sounds like they still will have conversations and try to follow up with those particular businesses. Kyle Cantor shared with me that there's been other situations where businesses have sort of said no from the beginning, and then ultimately they became the naming rights partner in the end. So I found that interesting. And then there's quite a few they just haven't heard back from yet. So they continue to follow up on those through phone call and email. And so just wanted to share that update. You know, it is progressing. It's great to see that they're getting some response and having some follow-up meetings, but you know, Kyle said it's sort of the first bend in a long journey with ongoing conversations to be had. And so I will just plan to continue to give you updates as I kind of month to month as I get updated from the superlative group.
I think 12 was a pretty good response on the thing.
I was
Did Kyle think that was a good response too? Positive, number of positive responses?
Yeah, I think he was pretty pleased with that response, just,
Yeah.
you know, responding to a letter. So,
When I heard that number, I was like, really?
I was gonna say they were no's.
No, what was the final number of letters that were sent out, like number of businesses that
we
we?
had pretty close to about 100 businesses, you know, so it's about a 10% response right from a letter. So that's pretty good. Yep.
Anything else concerning the naming rights? Moving on, the fall activity guide update.
Right, so activity guide just went live this week, and we provided you all a copy of it, and just kind of wanted to bring some attention to it because it's a little bit of change compared to how we've done it in the past. And I know I had talked about this idea with you a while back, and it's really kind of this evolution of, you know, kind of this digital transformation, so to speak. And so we've essentially taken our activity guide that's typically been somewhere near almost 60 to 70 pages down to 16. And it's a little bit more of a catalog style. So it still lists everything that we're offering. And then the online version, and then the versions that we email through our subscription, you can actually click in them. So it'll take you right to the ActiveNet site to register for that particular program. But it's really just kind of about condensing the information in the guide. For example, I think it's, you know, so far it seems to be still as effective. Our swim lessons ended up booking in a matter of, I think, in about, what was it,
7 minutes.
7 or 8 minutes. Once this hit online, you know, and we used to have almost 5, 6, 7 pages of information dedicated to our swim lessons. Now you can see there's an example. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but towards the back, we sort of have our continuous programming listed. So for things like swim lessons, skate lessons, gymnastics, things where there's just a lot of sessions, we provided more of just kind of an overview of what they are, but trying to push more people to our website to get more of that detail. I can share with you this saved a lot of staff time. We also were able to produce this a little more differently in-house. We were utilizing a different software platform that we were able to save money by bringing more in-house and utilizing InDesign within the Adobe Office Suite. And so now we're able to take the information that staff is inputting into ActiveNet, which is our registration software system, and then we can import it right into InDesign. And then from there, Chris, our marketing manager, worked with staff to lay out all the information. And so this is even going to be more streamlined now that he's created a little bit of a template here as we go forward with our future activity guides. And then the other thing I'll mention is we're not there yet, but ideally what this is going to do is free up more of our staff time to put more resource and time and energy into the website. so we can continue to enhance the information on our website. And then we're also putting more resources into working with ActiveNet and looking into a future Park and Rec app. So ActiveNet as a registration software has capability of an app. And so that could be a little bit more of a one-stop shop for a lot of our departmental information through an app.
Any comments or questions?
Questions on that?
It's just really pleasing to the eye. It's not too over clustered. It just looks really fun. I think they did a nice job.
Touch a Truck is going to be as big as ever, I guess, this year.
Oh yeah, always is. That's-
Lots of hot dogs going out.
Oh, hot dogs, right, Mary?
Yeah, ever since COVID, we've done away with the hot dogs,
Oh,
so.
I thought we just did it. I did away with the commission serving. I thought you were still doing the dogs.
No, so we've realized that the same crowd still shows up. But yeah, we've been working more with this food trucks to provide
Oh,
a food option as part of the event.
cool.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on to the next item, 7D, Chaska Cares Music Fest update.
exciting new event that we're partnering with the Chaska Rotary on to ultimately serve as a fundraiser in which the proceeds will go back into the community. The intent of the initial proceeds will ultimately go to the Miracle League Field and Universal Playground project that we're planning for at the future Southwest Community Park. So if you recall, we embarked on a partnership surrounding a pond hockey event earlier this year. And after quite a few meetings and thinking about the future of that, we just realized that there's too much uncertainty around the winter and the ice conditions, especially as it relates to that particular Fireman's Lake, to put all that kind of time and energy to then potentially not having an event. And so we're switching gears. We're no longer going to pursue that type of an event, and instead looking at this fall-based event that's going to occur within Athletic Park. And so that's kind of unique because oftentimes, as you know, it's the Chaska Cubs and the local Chaska Hawks that primarily use that field. And so this will be an opportunity for the community to be able to go inside the baseball field and enjoy an event. And so we're dubbing it as the Chaska Cares Music Fest and fundraiser. We've got a pretty solid lineup of bands and musicians. That's going to be on Saturday, October 7th. And so we're envisioning that the park will open around noon. And then we'll pretty much have music programmed throughout that entire afternoon and into the evening. We're looking at bringing in about 10 to 12 food trucks. So kind of have a feel of like a food truck festival within it. And then our local Rotary will be serving all of the beverages. So that's going to be another benefit because the proceeds from those beverage sales will also go back towards the community cause here. If we have time, we're looking at bringing in maybe a few vendors, kind of that artsy, craftsy type thing, because we're trying to make this a little bit more of like a folk and blues type feel. But there's been a lot of energy going into this. We literally just started planning this probably 2 to 3 months ago. And a lot of credit goes to Chris, our marketing manager. He's put a lot of time and effort into developing the graphics here. He's put together an event website. And then here on the right, you can see what it looks like through the ticketing platform. So we're going to be utilizing Eventbrite. And the tickets are going to go on sale this coming Friday at 10 o'clock. And we're looking at $50 for the ticket to give everybody access to the whole afternoon of programming. So Drayton Farley, the headliner, is from Alabama, and he's currently one of the opening acts for a lot of large festivals occurring, opening up for like Willie Nelson, Sheryl Crow, Black Crows, things like that. So he's definitely an up and comer. A lot of the critics write about him being kind of comparable to like lyrically to Bob Dylan and John Prine and things like that, for those of you who know those artists. Weathered Souls, they came recommended to us from Drayton Farley's promoter. They're coming from Texas, and another kind of up and comer. If you've heard of a sort of a country band called Whiskey Myers, they're pretty big. The Weathered Souls are out on tour opening for them. They're a little bit more like, I would say, Southern rock kind of feel. Possessed by Paul James. He's also coming from Texas. He's been in the folk scene for 25 years, toured internationally, was part of a international folk film festival. But what's really neat about him is his day job is as a special education teacher. And so when we reached out to him to invite him to perform at this and let him know what the cause was for, he really just wanted his flight and hotel covered and didn't really wanted everything else to go back to the cause, which was pretty neat. And then Four on the Floor, they're out of Minneapolis, a little bit more blues rock. We actually had them at Fire and Ice Festival a couple of years ago. And so they got a pretty big local following. And then as we go down there, Mike Poot, he's another local. He's from Farmington. Space Jam is a local band that actually plays at Heartbreakers here in Chaska almost every Sunday. And then Becky Raid, Dalton's another local. So we're trying to kind of kick it off with that uber local musicians, and then kind of expanding it out to musicians that are coming in from out of state. So yeah, hope to see you all there. Promote it. We're hoping for a good sized crowd. Athletic Park really lends itself to, I think, a pretty large audience. We're planning to situate the stage generally in left field. And then that way we can utilize the majority of the outfield for the audience. We'll turn it in a way where people could still sit in the grandstand and enjoy the concert. But the nice thing with that orientation is it's sending the noise away from downtown. But
Right to Carver.
also have some nice fall colors, it'll be a beautiful backdrop there along the river. So, and if all goes well, I think the intent is to consider growing this into a multi-day festival.
Imagine this to be an annual event.
Yeah, so the intent is for this to be annual, and then to, consider growing it into maybe a multi-day event. So Friday night and Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday.
It'd always be a
So-
fall type timeframe.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
So that early October seems to be a nice fit. It's a couple weeks after the Oktoberfest things that occur in Chaska. And then this particular weekend would be 1 week after the Renaissance Festival. So trying to not interfere with other things going on, but I think we start getting mid to late October, the weather gets a little bit more challenging. So we're excited for it. And I think it has a lot of potential to generate some good proceeds to go back towards the park project.
You said the tickets go on sale tomorrow,
Friday.
Friday?
Yep.
And there'll be tickets available at the door. You don't need to buy
Yeah, so
tickets in
we'll have
advance.
that ability to purchase tickets, the day of, which
Probably be sold out by then. Though.
that'd be great.
What is the capacity of that?
I think we probably need to be prepared for a lot of sales the day of. I mean, these artists aren't the type of artists that people know, they don't know them that well. So it's not like there's going to be an urgency a perceived urgency to go buy the ticket per se. But that's part of this. We don't have the budget for these huge names, but the approach we're taking is these are really good, talented, emerging artists that I think people will be pleasantly surprised that for $50, it's a good lineup compared to what people pay for some other all-day music festivals. But yeah, so we'll be prepared though, because I think a lot of people are gonna wait and possibly see what the weather is gonna be like, things like that. So we'll have that capability to sell them the day of.
And I put the food trucks at, did you say?
So the food trucks, we're looking at having within the ballpark and sort of along the warning track of the outfield, and just lining them up along there. And then working with Public Works to bring in picnic tables, and we might even consider bringing in a few fire pits, having them further back. So trying to just create an experience, kind of a fall fest experience. Some people might be really into the music, and other people might just kind of have fun hanging out in the back and just enjoying the time.
Will there be any vending of any source?
Any what?
Any vending tied to it at all? Just,
Mean by
like-
vending?
I
well,
think you said bringing in arts.
Oh,
and
like
crafts,
some-
a lot of
the-
festivals, yeah. Like,
Yeah, yep. So that's our goal. If we have time, we're up against time here, but if we can attract a handful of vendors, that is our intent. Typically, these musicians and bands also have merch. So there'd be a merch area for them as well.
I want to give a shout out to Chris because I talked to him about this at Fire and Ice and he was really excited. And I actually looked up the bands that he had mentioned and they're really good. I could vouch for those.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
Went to the Prayer Lake Rotary does one and was there earlier this summer for it, and they've been doing it for years, but this looks like it mirrors that.
Yep.
Hugely successful. I think they can get in that park, I think they said 60,000 people.
60,000?
Yeah. Do you know what the capacity of that space would be?
We're guessing maybe 10,000.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. To put it in perspective, our guesstimate for Fireman's Park, when we're looking at Fire and Ice, we're thinking that's around 5,000 to 7,000 people. So we think we could hold, as many, if not more, at Athletic Park.
Is there going to be transportation there, any kind of shuttle service for people?
Yes, so we're gonna work with Southwest Transit to be able to provide shuttle service. And then I'll make sure too that we're notifying the residents that live in that neighborhood. Just because this is gonna be a new program that hasn't been there in the past, so just so they understand there's gonna be people parking throughout the neighborhood streets.
It's like directed towards families or mainly just like adults?
Primarily adults, but not to say that if adults want to bring their kids, they could, but it definitely is geared a little bit more towards adults. And we may even consider, not like we're going to be able to accommodate all the families that would go to this, but one thing that's been successful at the community center is Parents' Night Out. So if we can match that up with this evening, parents could drop their kids off at the community center while they're going to this event and have a fun time that way.
Anything else on that item? Moving on, Chaska care, well, that's the one we just said. Other department happenings.
So go through my list here of some other things occurring in our department and a little bit in the city too. So the pedestrian and bicycle master plan. So we continue to work on that. We got the revised draft back from our consultant last week, and there were just a few minor revisions that I wanted to be made before we take that next step to bring it out for public review. So we are getting close. I don't anticipate these updates taking our consultant too long. One of them had to do with identifying how we're positioning the priority trail projects. And so we needed to look at that a little bit differently. So it does require him to update through GIS mapping to get that change into the plan. But I anticipate that coming back to me later this week or next week. So we should be in a position here next month to have more conversation around that plan in the public process and in the approval process to start implementing some of the recommendations with it. So I'm excited for that. Somewhat related, last month, as you recall, we had a work session with our city engineer staff, and we got a chance to look at the proposed downtown regional trail that's being worked on. And so they are going to be conducting a neighborhood meeting actually tomorrow night at City Hall, here at City Hall at 5 o'clock. And this is primarily with the residents who live in the townhomes a little further east along Chaska Boulevard that are pretty much up against the trail. And so they're going to be reviewing plans with them and gathering feedback. And then they're still planning on another community engagement open house type event where it'll be for the broader community to come in and look at what's being proposed. So that continues to evolve. We already kind of hit on Touch a Truck, but that will be occurring next week, Thursday. One of the funnest events we put on. The great thing is one of our simplest events. It's really neat to see the teamwork and all the other departments participate in it. But they kind of come in and take over our parking lot, and it's just so neat to see all the families with kids having the opportunity to to look and feel and touch and play on all the equipment. And then to see all our different community service organizations as part of the event too, and providing the different games for kids. And then the week following, on Sunday, August 27th, we'll have Art in the Park at Fireman's Park. So this is the second year we put this on. Last year when we did it, it was the first time. And I think we had about 18 to 20 vendors. This year, we've already got over 50 vendors. I think we're maybe near 60.
That's cool.
So it's really exciting to see that take off. A lot of that's the partnership with the Arts Consortium, and then just other varieties of artists and things like that.
And that's at Fireman's Park.
That'll be at Fireman's Park, yep. So music, food trucks, and then all those different art vendors. And same thing, that might be another one where maybe we grow it into Saturday as well. We'll see. The interesting thing we're working through there is we got to make a lot of those decisions pretty far out, just with that location being a wedding venue. So a lot of people are booking that event center 12, 18 months out. And so we need to make decisions on those types of Saturdays where we would be hosting large community events to be able to factor that in. And then on August 29th, which is a Tuesday, we're hosting a back to school bash, which is actually going to occur over in Carver. But residents of Chaska are welcome to attend, and there'll be a variety of kids activities. There's actually going to be a skateboard demonstration occurring there by Third Layer. So just another opportunity for kids and families to get out and have a little bit of fun before school starts. And then at the Curling Center, we are working with USA Curling and potentially hosting a national US Curling Championship event. We're looking at early May, and it would be the 5 and under championship. So essentially, curlers who haven't been curling more than 5 years. So, but gives them the opportunity to compete at a high level.
I know.
That's where my mind went.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got it.
5 and under.
That's exciting. There's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change as it relates to US curling and as an organization coming out of COVID. There's been a change in their executive director. There's been a change in their membership structure as it relates to curling facilities being in good standing with USA Curling as an organization. And so I'm excited for these. I think they're all positive changes that are going to help grow the sport. You know, and it allows us, because we actually took a pause from being members of US Curling coming out of COVID, just with some of those changes occurring. We wanted to see where that landed, but we're happy with the direction they're going. And so now it's great to see that we're back in the mix as a facility where they want to host some of their national championships. So that's good. And then I would just, I thought I would touch lastly on the goats up at Savannah Oaks Park. And so you all got some information in your, in an email update regarding a question and answer session that Brent and our water resource coordinator is going to be conducting on Thursday. And that's, I believe, 6 o'clock. Trying to blank on that. I know it was in the email, but he's going to do that on the northern side of the park, just kind of the north side of the playground. So it's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the overall restoration that's occurred at that park and kind of where we're at and then what's left and what's remaining. But
How much longer are the goats going to be there?
so the plan, I believe, is still through the rest of August. In fact, let me see here.
5:30 to 6:30.
Yeah. Set
5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30. Thank you. Let me pull up. I actually had a map that he shared with me. If we can see this.
Yeah, I won't be there.
Can I
I'll
bring
be
your
at our
driveway
neighborhood.
then?
meeting.
So this is what Brent shared with me. So on this northern edge, where this line here is coming across, everything to the north here, that is already where the goat grazing has been completed. So the remaining work to be done is here on the south end of this line. And then I believe he has plans for some grazing on the northern end of this corridor that's not shown on this map.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that he'll be speaking to is the pollinator plantings. And that would be this red line. And if you recall, that was our way of creating a little bit of a buffer between the backyards of the residents and the trail there. And then they're going to carry that pollinator planting around on the northern edge of this stormwater pond and up to this kind of northern end of the loop there. So I think there's a lot of exciting things occurring. And he shared with me too, he's still working on it, but he's putting together a story map. So people will have the ability to go online and it'll sort of tell the story of how this park developed and then how these restoration projects have come together from the stormwater improvement area to the more of this woodland restoration. So a lot of exciting things there.
What's been the feedback about the goats so far? Anything?
Bad.
So glad that got
Do you
recorded.
want to tee up
That
another
was
one?
Wow.
Let me bring up another.
How long were you sitting on that?
So here we'll show you a good example of what they've done. So on the left side within the fencing, you can see what, the area that they've grazed and then just compare that to the right side where they haven't grazed. So it's pretty incredible what these goats have done to really open up sort of that under canopy of the forest area up there.
So is the city going to come in then and take down all the woody stuff that's
Yeah.
remaining then?
Kind of mow that down. Yep.
And does that, I mean, that's all going to probably grow back. Does that get treated at all so that like with the buckthorn and other stuff that it doesn't come back or don't you know?
So my understanding is from Brent is I think they come back like 2 years later.
So then the goats will come back 2 years later.
What's that?
So then the goats will have to come back 2 years later.
I don't know if it'll grow to that extent where the goats will be needed again, but I think it's as part of kind of the management plan to come back and treat it or mow it to essentially kind of prevent it from coming back up again.
Okay.
So Carly might know more about how.
Yeah, he probably will be treating it probably this spring again, and then again in the fall.
It just, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what they do because you can really see the difference, but I just didn't, there's so much woody undergrowth just left that.
Yeah, it's still twiggy.
Yeah, you got to get rid of that to make it a more clean look, I think, so.
Yep.
release a pack of beavers in or something like that, or
What's that?
release some beavers or something like that in there now? I don't know.
It's amazing the
I don't like the
difference though.
twigs. Yeah.
It's just, so did I understand it right that they might consider using the goats in other parts or areas that have a lot of buckthorn?
Yeah, I think, this was a really good kind of pilot to see how it worked
Yeah.
and develop a relationship with the owner of these goats. And, now that it's shown successful, to consider it for other areas of the city.
My backyard?
Yeah.
I think that wagon park would certainly be a good place to put them.
Yeah.
Are all the goats the same gender, or are they like, is there a possibility that they would have kids in this area with kind of like overpopulated with goats? I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're both genders that are out there. And so I think that's part of the management of the herd. I think the goat owner comes out on a regular basis. That would be a pretty cool story, but
Adorable to see the goat kid
Yeah.
goats.
yeah.
But I don't know about the people living there.
Yeah.
Anything else, Marshall?
That is all I had.
I have a question, not directly Parks and Rec related, but the loop, are they still going to try to get a soft opening Labor Day on the thing? I know that there's studs up on the clubhouse last time I looked.
Yep. So they've started the framing. My understanding is part of the delay here is getting the necessary plumbing permits from the state.
From Chaska?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a state required permit.
Oh, it's a state required.
Yeah, and so there's been some delay from the state end to get those permits. I believe we recently just got them. So I think Labor Day is going to be a little bit of a stretch for a soft opening, but hopefully still maybe in October, weather permitting. I know that John is wanting to have some sort of soft opening yet this fall, and then prepare for more of a grand opening next spring.
Course itself is ready though, right? It's just more of those things like finishing the clubhouse and whatnot.
Yeah, yep. And I think for the intent of that being, having the capability, for people with disabilities to play, we really need that clubhouse to be operational and the access from the parking lot to the golf course and things of that nature. So, yep.
Thanks, Marshall.
Yeah.
Other business, roundtable.
Going to comment on the park, but it's Van Oaks is still being used really heavily, and I haven't heard any complaints about the goats from the neighbors. Actually, it's been pretty positive, so not bad.
So I got to go out with Chris Lindahl with the new drone that got purchased and help him fly it for Fire and Ice. That was really fun. And we got some really cool video footage. Yeah.
That turned out really good. I'm surprised at the quality of footage that little drone has.
No, it was so, oh man, it was really cool.
I think I'm excited for us to utilize that more, not only for marketing purposes, but even just as a tool, because it was pretty insightful to just see kind of the layout of the vendors and the tents and where people were gathering more. So I think it can help inform some of our layouts going forward too. Yeah. So thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
I wanted to comment on the shuttle service to some of the different community events. That's been fabulous. I hope we continue to make that available for different activities. I mean, it's been fabulous with the construction, but even beyond once 41's open in 10 years, it would be great to continue it. Question, and maybe I just haven't noticed it at some of our larger events because my family tends to go to the events earlier in the day when the kids are not monsters, but do we have like supervised bike storage tents where, you drop your stuff off and there's clearly somebody who is in charge of making sure nobody just runs away with the bikes? Is that something we've considered?
Yeah, we have not, we haven't offered that yet. For Fire and Ice this year, we did bring in some more bike racks to try to encourage that as an option, but didn't necessarily staff it. But I do see that as something that we could grow into more. And, ideally we see more people using that as a means to get to some of our community events. So yeah, appreciate that.
Were there quite a few people that rode up there and used the bike racks?
Not a lot. The other thing that comes with that is we also experienced maybe the challenging side of that, where quite a few kids were zipping on their bike through the crowd. And so it became a little bit dangerous at times too. So we want to encourage people to get there on their bike, but then, as it relates to the activity going on in the park, to be able to walk or at least walk their bike through the crowd rather than biking. But yeah, I mean, there were some, but not like a huge amount.
Anything else?
Yes, I was going to comment on the activity guide and how great it is that we have so many wonderful activities available. And I'm also thinking about the district puts out their community guide as well. And that's really fun to be able to go through both. And then I will unfortunately end on a miss. I saw that, and this is not city property, it is the district's property, but the Family Learning Center, they took out almost all of their pollinator plantings and put down landscape rock. And it's just such a sad decision to see like a government building doing that when they had a really good backbone for it was a great pollinator garden that just needed a little bit of TLC or more neglect in that case, I suppose, but just very sad to see. That's all I had.
Went out to River City Days and it was great to see so many people out there between the Friday night. Saturday was beautiful weather, tons of people out that day. Sunday was beautiful weather, didn't see as many people out that day. I was curious if there was any feedback that trickled back to the city about the park, new shelter, anything about, I don't know, did it shine a light on that park that maybe people hadn't seen before, that there's new pickleball courts there or any number of things like that? I was curious if you had received any feedback through that event.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally from a staff perspective, the feedback we got was overall positive. I think people liked the park. I think they liked the fact there were actually more vendors, I think, compared to what we could host at or what they could host at City Square. Like all first time events, there's things you learn. I think there were some vendors that maybe felt like they didn't get as much traffic than others. I think just, thinking about the layout. But I think it, from what I gathered, is it was good enough to where we definitely want to consider hosting it there in the future. I think that is kind of the site that we'd want to see that go to. Sounds like, or my understanding is that the organizers of River City Days, I think, have a survey out. So, be looking forward to seeing what feedback they get directly.
Yep.
I know there was some discussion about maybe incorporating more of like a softball tournament into the event or a pickleball tournament, just kind of utilizing those amenities within the park throughout the weekend. So, yeah.
Are those revenue generating events for the city at all, for the use of a park by another organization like that? they just get to use the space and have to do a permit for it, or how does that work?
Good question. So yeah, so that's an outside, nonprofit that organizes that event. And so they submit a special event permit to us. But that's one of those events where there's a pretty strong historical relationship.
Yep.
And so, while it's not the city's event, we do invest quite a bit of time and resources into what I would say is the infrastructure for them to be able to host that event.
Mhm.
So helping provide tents, helping provide garbage, picnic tables, things of that nature. So our public works and park maintenance department, they put in a lot of work to help make that event go off.
And then, but does, like the organizers, do we get reimbursed for that or anything? I was just curious. Do we get reimbursed for that, or we just let them use it because it's a community event using the facility, or?
Do we get reimbursed?
Yeah.
Nope. So we just take
City money.
that on as,
I'm just curious. Yeah, I don't.
to support that organization. That's kind of our contribution to that event. Yep.
This is good. It's a great event. Great to see a lot of people out there. So.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. That's all I got.
Jason,
Nothing for me this week. Next time.
Liz?
Last Tuesday was National Night Out, August 1st, and my neighborhood ended up doing something, haven't done something for a couple of years, and the Chaska Police and Fire Department swung by, and that was really exciting for all the kids, and I just like to see that kind of interaction with the city police and the firefighters with the kids and building that positive relationship. And I haven't heard much about it this year. It just kind of came really fast, and luckily my neighborhood did something. But if your neighborhood didn't do something this year, I encourage everybody to kind of plan something and re-engage with those neighbors after these past couple of years and get something on the books for next year. It's a fun night.
My son, in his neighborhood in Bloomington, they've had that every year for several years. And they entered a contest and they won. And they had Amy Klobuchar there. They had the mayor of the city, the chief of police. The whole thing was catered. It was really cool.
That's
Really
neat.
cool. Virginia?
Oh, that just made me think, I think it's the Park and Rec has the block party van.
Yes.
Does that still get used? We used it all the time when the kids in the neighborhood were little, and that actually is a great thing to use for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the coolest thing. I think the Lions.
Lions.
Yes. Made this big van, and in it is stuffed with toys and games and tables and chairs. So you could block, and then cones, you can block off your neighborhood and then have, barbecue and whatnot. But the toys were the big thing.
It's really
with the
cool.
Kids, yeah. So I haven't thought about
Yeah,
that.
that's free. So
Mhm.
So that's the thing.
residents can call in and reserve it, and our staff take it to the neighborhood and drop it off and then pick it up afterwards. So it's a pretty neat service.
Gets used a lot.
Mhm.
Samson?
Nothing really. I just have a quick question because I don't really know what's going on in this section of Chaska. I don't know if it's in our domain or not, but what is being built by Kohl's? Because I have to go by that road every day and I just wondered. So it was just a question.
Apartment building,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'll be an apartment complex.
a Taco Bell or Five Guys.
Just needs all the clay, big
Hey,
piles of
Santa
clay. Oh,
Have to drive to Chanhassen.
Just too far. It's going to be built.
The other side of 41.
He's trying to kill us.
See where it's blocked off right now. Up to the left side along there will be us go.
Because my job's near there, so we joke that we're gonna get a lot traffic once that day ends. So we're like hoping it goes as long as it can.
Yeah, and I would share, if you go to our city's home website and scroll down a little bit, there's a button, I believe it's labeled Community Development Projects. And you can go in there and see what all the current developments are. And it gives you some background on like the location of it and what the project is, along with where it's at in the approval process, whether it's at concept, preliminary or final. And then there's quite a bit of all of like, you can quickly access like the council meeting and the minutes and the supporting documents throughout each of those approval processes. So it's a good resource for information about those types of projects.
Nobody mentioned, but the Cubs are going to state and they've got one more game. And there'll be 3B champs, and that's on Thursday. There's another game going on tonight to determine who they play. And then they'll be in state. The only benefit of this game on Thursday, if they win a higher seed in the state. So really cool.
Are they playing here, local?
Yeah, Thursday. I don't know what time on Thursday.
My husband took my son last night and he said his heart was full. It was fun.
Yeah. My daughter took her family and the kids almost made them broke with the number of hot dogs they ate. But other than that, they really had a blast. So it was a lot of fun.
That's the real reason you want the hot dogs at
Huh?
Touch a Truck.
Yeah.
That's the real reason you want the hot dogs at Touch a
Right.
Truck.
No, I ate as many as I could. Me and Joey Chestnut, we're getting it close. That's all I got. Mary, you got anything for us tonight? Okay. Last call. Could we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Zach? Second? Liz, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hey.
The commission is adjourned at 8:02.